Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. In our last audio recording, we talked to you about the fascinating subject of meteorites, and we were telling you about all kinds of crazy stuff we're learning about meteorites, including maybe there's even THC on these special rocks that come from space. But now we're going to take the subject a little deeper and a little bit more scientific. And Thomas, Douglas, Gabriel, tell us what we really need to know about meteorites.
Well, as we said in the first broadcast, we were just so thrilled to think that perhaps the THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, connection to the endocannabinol system in the human body had been found as a possible seeding from space from either comets or meteorites. And that was terribly exciting because there's a lot that they discover all the time about meteorites. And so we believe that is not true. In further vetting, we had looked at one article and then some other people who picked that up, and blah blah had some fake scientific evidence. So we went and looked at the real site. So we've provided for you a number of links, URL links, and also the type of material that has been found recently, literally in 2019, at the same time that whoever got this inspiration to write a fake report about finding THC on meteorites. Well, what happened in 2018 and 19 was the following. Organic material was found on Martian meteorites. Enzymes, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrocarbons, everything. So it's like, hello, water crystals. So inside of these water crystals and meteorites from Mars, you have literally the proof of water on Mars and the indications of life on Mars previously.
And you've provided me with all these links, which I am putting in the description box.
Yes. And then in 2019, they found from the giant Murchison meteor with further technical skill, basically, enzymes inside of that meteorite, which was found in 1969. Now, there have been a few that have been found that they're now checking in relationship to that and finding with this new system that they can actually find the prototypes of life in many meteorites, especially Klondike meteorites, exactly as I indicated yesterday when this report that we had read didn't state what type of meteorite or blah, 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 blah. I speculated it'd probably be from Klondike meteorite, which is where you get the organic material for life. Now, they haven't found life specifically, but they have found enzymes, and these pre-enzymes in this meteorite, which the Murchison meteorite seems to have been found in an area that had been submerged in water. And they speculate where it came from, the largest asteroid in the asteroid belt series, or the second largest, Heavy. Well, that's all well and good. But let me explain something that they're not going to explain to you. And I started on, but didn't go there in the previous broadcast about meteorites, because I get excited when you say meteorites, not because of animism and comparative religion indicates that, there's animistic forces involved in meteorites that are inexplicable, as I gave indication of what happens in Indonesia with krises and these sacred blades made out of meteorite. Well, what we're really finding is that the further they look in a meteorite, it seems to be everything is there. But why is everything there? Why is all of the prototypes of life as well as the beginnings of life found in meteorites from Mars, on this side of the asteroid belt, and also from asteroids that fall from the large asteroid belt? Plus the question is, how did the asteroid belt get there? Well, the ancient Sumerians say it was a planet, Marduk, and that's where the war in heaven happened. And that's where Lucifer was thrown down to the earth. And so the planet exploded that this happened on, and literally it was a protoplanet that had almost come to life, or had already come to life. You can't tell by these stories. And then others say the same thing, who are clairvoyants, who are theosophists and such things, say that this planet Marduk was the planet of, Marduk means Michael, or the Archangel Michael. And it was Michael who threw Lucifer down. Well, we have meteorites coming out of there all the time, don't we? And as I said last time, we have palladium, which is white gold. So we have refined metals at such a level that olivine grows, diamonds grow, lots of diamonds. Well, these are processes that sometimes happen in space and sometimes happen on a planet or an asteroid because it's exposed to space, or as the asteroid / meteorite is traveling through space, they can gain some of these things. So only now, in the last few years, have they actually started to take account of the fact that they can clearly determine what is environmental contamination with these meteorites, so that, yes, you might have had a meteorite that was found that had ancient 50,000-year-old remnants of cannabis spores. Absolutely possible. But it could have happened here in contamination on the Earth or even in our atmosphere. So when they say they find things in meteorites, you have to be very careful about that. Because, first off, where did the meteorite come from? And that's speculation in most cases. Second off, what is it that you're really looking at? What time period you're looking at? And from where did the meteorite come in terms of, for instance, the asteroid belt? Did it come from a large asteroid and broke off from that, so that they believe right now that Ceres, the largest asteroid in the asteroid belt, has water on it, and it has all kinds of minerals and metals and tons of diamonds.
Well, how would working with meteorites help one in human evolution?
Well, that's the real question. Human evolution, meteorites were the greatest boon, the greatest good thing that could fall from the sky, as long as blood rain didn't accompany it. If blood rain accompanied it, blood rain was purported in the stories, 80 different versions or 80 different indications.
Now, is this wet or is it a dust? That was a question that people asked in the last YouTube comment.
It is blood, and it curdles just like blood.
And when they examine it, it is a hemoglobin.
It looks exactly like human hemoglobin, human blood.
It looks like it, but how about chemically? Does it break down as hemoglobin?
Well, it can't be. There is no individualized DNA in it because it's non-nucleated hemoglobin blood, so there's no nucleus in it, so you can't look at the DNA. But what you can look at is the content of it, and the fall that happened in 2001 in Kerala, India. Look this up, Kerala, India. 50,000 tons fell, and they sent it all over the world to have it examined, and nobody could come up with anything except, well, it seems to be, we don't even want to speculate. No one would hardly speculate, but they give you all the statistics, and it looks exactly like human blood. And those who witnessed it in the 80 different accounts throughout history give these versions of it that they know what blood looks like, and they said blood, they had to run inside because they were terrified of this. So when a meteorite came, if it exploded, and there's a name for that, but if it exploded before it hit the ground, oftentimes blood rain would come. And they assumed that it was something in the atmosphere that the pieces of meteorite were bringing to the ground. Who knows? I'm not saying, just like I didn't say about the speculation on finding organic spores of cannabis on inside of a meteorite. It's usually inside of a meteorite on a crystal, and in that crystal is usually water, and in that water is almost always carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and sometimes hydrocarbons and sometimes enzymes. And so we put a list there of the things that everyone agrees has been found in the Murchison's meteorite. That's agreed upon. Others speculate on other things that they find it. Now, chondrite means, there's different types of meteorites. Chondrite means it's like an earth. It's like almost, it is a haven for organic material. It could literally be said it was the earth of this planet Marduk. So when Marduk blew up, if we believe in such things, they say there was just like the earth. There was metals, there was refined metals, there were surface metals, subterranean metals. There was chondrite, there was camphor, there were terpenes, there was all this stuff is there in it. So there was some kind of life going on. So to speculate that there could be cannabis in the organic material of even the meteorites we have now is not far-fetched at all. because cannabis is, as we said, 50,000 years of cultivation on the earth. So it was the first cultivated plant, and its uses, cannabis and hemp, are usually together, like a male and a female. And they have uses that go all the way back to the beginning of prehistory, actually. So now, meteorites, because also the galactose thing, everybody's laughing about, am I galactose free? Well, yeah, I am gluten free and dairy free.
Galactose intolerant.
Because
people were like, get out of here. There's not something called galactose out there.
Look it up on Wikipedia, folks. It's so commonly known, it's ridiculous. In giant clouds of ethanol, which is a frozen alcohol in space, inside of that, just conveniently, happens to be a ton of galactose. More galactose than you could possibly imagine. When we went through the Spiral Nebula section that had that in it, it was about the time that humans supposedly, according to evolution, which is a joke, started to evolve, and they believe that the galactose seeded DNA into our Earth. That's science, okay? Now, science is all theory, and I'm telling you a theory. What's the truth of the matter? The truth of the matter is the spiritual reality uses all kinds of things that we can't imagine, and in space is C60 buckyballs, C70, C80. Some believe, and this is on meteorites, some believe the carbon on meteorites is astounding because it shows us things that don't happen here on the Earth. So there are extraterrestrial pieces of the puzzle in these meteorites about the past, and I believe about the future. So if there is C60, C70, C80 roaming around in space, perfected carbon, in shapes that we can't even imagine on Earth. We can now have buckyballs on Earth with C60, and we can find it in shungite. And as I pointed out, shungite is assumed by many to be the most ancient of meteorites that fell. And when I put another article in there that shows you that even in volcanoes we have records of the past, and we can see there that the record of the meteorites demonstrate that there is organic material on those meteorites, and because of that, they assume the meteorites that have fallen into volcanoes, look it up, this isn't speculation, I study meteorites, that this is how the Earth was seeded. Well, okay, that's very nice. I'm not sure that I'm going to agree with the time sequence, or I'm going to agree with that, but to say that galactose is in space and that the ancients who were clairvoyant looked up there and saw a beautiful woman, and that if they could understand the stars and understand the Milky Way and understand the precession of the equinox, which they called the body of the goddess, by the way, 25,920 year precession through the zodiac at the equinox point, which demonstrates culture, and to associate that with the Milky Way and this great goddess, that's the way that it was in ancient history. So you can look that up too. So we did not vet that article. We told you we didn't vet it. We vetted it now, and it's speculation, and it's dreams based upon other things that happened in 2018 and 19, where enzymes were discovered in meteorites.
Okay, so you didn't get lost in the weeds, you got lost in the stars on this one. And while you're up there in the stars, I happen to know that you went to an annual lecture that's given in our area here by a prominent astrologer who kind of gives a layout for what to expect for the year. Can you give us your take on what we're coming to see unfold, especially on the political scene for this upcoming year? And I want people to pay attention to what you have to say about January.
Well, that's a very big question, Betsy. And I went and heard Robert Thibodeau. And Robert Thibodeau has been noted as a much more accurate astrological predictor than Gene Dixon or anybody else, actually. And I have watched him for years, and his predictions have been quite accurate. Now, what he does is a very unique thing. He looks at the chart for the whole year, and he looks at where the planets are in the houses. And I'm not sure how he does it. It's a magical thing, kind of, that he does. He's been doing astrology for so many years, and for so many people, a lot of the richest people in the world, musicians, entertainers, all this stuff, come to him, and he has this way of looking at the America and predicting the future. But anyway, so we put a chart up on the board, and the chart showed that there's a stellium, and there is a stellium. So no matter what, this is the truth, that we have in January, February, March, a number of conjunctions, and those conjunctions are all together in the fourth house, the house of the home. So get ready for the most dynamic changes to your home, is what he would suggest, or to the nation, if that's the case, if you're looking at a bigger scale, and that there is going to be some real upsets to some women, but some fantastic advances to women who have secured their wealth through non-predatory means, actually will be very advanced during this coming year. He predicts a very cold year because of this, because of the stellium. A stellium is a gathering of planets. So in the sky, we're going to see Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and the Sun, and what else? Off to the one side, there's Mars, and off to the other, there's Venus. And besides that, there's just the Moon and Uranus, which are doing their thing, which is what I mentioned about women. So all of them are kind of gathered down there, and on the midnight, where things are unexpected, things that people can't imagine. So we are about to see, in 2020, kind of the upset and the opposite of what everybody hopes, or what the majority of people might hope or imagine in terms of everything: politics, energy, education, home, what we consider, globalism, nationalism will become a big focus, continue to be a big focus, and we will see tremendous advancements for those who happen to have things in your astrological chart that are related to the early degrees of Capricorn, and then later in March, the really big aspects come towards the if you have early Capricorn or late Capricorn. So if you're a Capricorn, either at the beginning of the time you can be a Capricorn, or a Capricorn at the end of the time you can be a Capricorn, get ready. You're going to have an incredibly exciting year. I mean, beyond imagination. And it's going to upset the way that people think. For instance,
who do we know on the world stage that's a Capricorn? And if you don't have anything at the top of your head, maybe folks can leave a little note under the comment box about that.
Well, I don't do astrology, so I don't know. And I don't follow sun signs, which is what this would be. So you can look at a person's sun sign, everybody, what sign are you? Oh, I'm this sign, that sign, based upon your birth date. That's what is being looked at here, just in a general way. But if you get specific, you can get he got quite specific. Now, I would look at that and say, okay, get ready, climate change people. We're going into a mini ice age. So get ready, get a really warm overcoat, because in 2020, and for the next 10 years after that, according to the people who follow the real sun cycles, we're not entering into an age of heating of the earth, but of cooling of the earth. And we already see that because they predict now, the standard weather people predict, that in England they will have the coldest winter they've had in 70 years. They're predicting the polar vortex already, and so on and so forth. So we're looking at a big winter and kind of a big upset. Now, when it came to politics, he had to say it's so confusing. He says no candidate out there actually has good aspects, which is very funny. Very funny, because right now it would look like Trump isn't going to do well from some of these attacks. But that's what it would look like, because that's the media. And it looks like Elizabeth Warren's doing well. Okay, this communist, this socialist, whose only thing she ever did is now in the Supreme Court and they're going to overturn it, who used fake IDs and fake...
You're talking about Elizabeth Warren and the Consumer Protection Bureau.
Thank you very much. And her fake claim to be an Indian when she went through colleges that gave her scholarships for such. The woman's a criminal. She's a fraud. She was part of Obama ripping off corporations through the Consumer... What is it?
Consumer Protection Bureau?
Consumer Financial Protection Bureau,
Yeah.
which is going to be found to be unconstitutional, which we said it was from the moment it was created, because it was simply favoring the corporations that Obama and his gang of Chicago mafia, Hillary Clinton type people, Valerie Jarrett, the whole group, Michelle Obama, they were all part of the mob in Chicago. They came to DC, and they're still doing the same thing. But anyway, what those people were doing was ripping off whoever they wanted, so they would make small corporations get squished and squelched while they were supporting their favorites, which were all Silicon Valley, cardboard cutout, weaponized, Highlands Forum, social media, theft of leader technology type people. So well, we're seeing all kinds of amazing things with the way that happens. But you had a specific question.
Well, I'm just, when you came back from the session, it was very interesting to see that things might be changing in January. You said it has something to do with a stellium that was going to affect everyone.
Oh,
Yes.
Some time ago, when I noticed, and I don't do astrology, but I noticed that the stellium was happening, and then somebody said, I'm having these problems in my life. I looked at that and said, oh don't worry. I'm not an astrologer, but I can predict it's going to change in March. So whatever you think is going on in January, February, and March, get ready, because it is going to be an earthquake to it. And if it isn't stable, if it isn't nailed down, if it isn't solid, you're going to reevaluate it. Everyone. You're going to reevaluate it, everything, especially concerning your home, the way that you work, your personality, your money, economics. And so with astrology, they always predict the good and the bad to a certain aspect. So that's a fantastically powerful aspect that could say that the stock market's going to crash. It could say your house is going to burn down from an electrical fire. Look at the other side of that. It could say the stock market is going to zoom up more than ever before.
So basically,
unprecedented way.
Astrology tells us nothing.
It tells you nothing. It tells you something's happening, but how you react to it's totally different. So as I said with that other aspect, that could be a big financial crash. But if you look, you see Venus is what is called a midpoint, causing a midpoint to that aspect. And when that happens, and it turns out beautiful if you have prepared, if you're a pure person, if you are into beauty. So here is what you could read, the good and the bad. The bad is somebody is going to be so upset and things are going to be so shaken and rattled that they will think the wheels are coming off the bus. Oops! I keep saying that's happening to the Democrats. Yes, get ready, Democrats. You're about ready to have an explosion happen. I don't know what, but according to this, an explosion. Now, on the good side, you're talking about perhaps a new type of economy, perhaps a complete refounding of our nation, a complete new icon to identify with in terms of what it means to be an American. And all of those things seem to be possible with Trump. So, but at the same time, it could go the opposite way, and the deep state could win. And if the deep state wins, I will cry. But if Trump wins, I'm going to be so shocked. It's as shocking as hearing that there's tetrahydrocannabinol on meteorites.